Welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones. I am a certified personal trainer, and I'm here to help you achieve your fitness goals without pain. In each episode, I'll share tips and strategies that will help you stay safe and pain-free while you're working out. I'll also interview experts in the field of fitness and pain management. So if you're ready to learn how to stay active and pain-free, then subscribe to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones, and today's guests are Alyssa Acompora and Alyssa Hermann, and they are the founders of Beyond the Athlete, a coaching platform supporting former athletes in their transition out of sports. Both are nurses and board-certified coaches who blend their experience in healthcare, sports, and mindset coaching to help athletes rebuild confidence, create new routines, and find purpose after their competitive careers. Their work focuses on holistic wellness, mentorship, and empowering others to thrive beyond the game. Welcome to the show, ladies. How are you?
Thank you. That was a great intro. Well,
That's what get good bios, get good intro.
I think I sent something over it like that.
So you can already tell what this is going to be like because we're giddy and I'm excited because I stalk these two on TikTok because some of the messages I got because they do little short TikTok videos and the snippets resonated with my soul. And I was like, why hasn't anybody ever thought about doing this before? So whoever wants to go first, what inspired you to create this forum, the Beyond the Athlete, and how do you blend all your stuff to make it work for you?
I can go?
Go
That's
for it.
okay? Okay, yeah. So I always like to say that starting this was a little bit of an accident. Happened when I was getting my board coaching certification, and that required me to get a ton of hours with pro bono clients. Surprisingly, as a former soccer player, all of my friends are former athletes. And I just kept having the exact conversation. And kind of like how you just said it, it would resonate with me hearing the struggle that this client was sharing with me. Like I was so consistent when I was an athlete, and I haven't worked out in 5 years. I haven't had a gym membership in 5 years. I started working, and now I don't feel like I have time for anything. I don't really know who I am. All I do is work and go to sleep or parent. And I realized myself, a lot of my own identity struggles and creating work-life balance kind of started when I went into nursing and when I stopped competing in soccer. And so that's really when Beyond the Athlete started. I made a Facebook group. There were like hundreds of people that joined, and fast forward a couple of years, and now we have Beyond the Athlete together. As far as how we blend, Liz, do you want to answer that second half?
Yeah, I think that it's funny. We were searching for like-minded individuals. We really wanted to support high achievers, both coming from very successful backgrounds, nursing backgrounds, ICU backgrounds, high-level performers as athletes. When we were first meeting each other, Alyssa and I, through a mentor for nurse coaching, they said, wow, you really are similar. And once we met and we're like, wow, we were struggling with the same things with transition, and we had each our own clients that were struggling kind of similarly, we can take this and run with it. And using our nursing background, we automatically kind of take care of the whole person right now. When you're as a bedside nurse, you have to look at not only the disease process, the diagnosis, but you also have to look at how are they mentally coping with these things? How are they emotionally handling these things? So when it came time to being in the coaching aspect, it's not as much reactive. Okay, this happened. Let's fix it. Let's put a Band-Aid on it. It's more proactive. Okay, these things happen to you. Let's take what we know and the mindsets that you have and whatever happened in your sports career and use it to propel us forward, to prevent lifestyle changes that maybe aren't helping us, or to start to unlearn some of the athlete mindset that maybe is keeping us stuck, whether it's consistency with healthy habits or whether it's feeling like you have to do more and more and more and achieve and achieve and achieve and never feel fulfilled. So we blended our knowledge of not only the human body, but the human mind and the human spirit. And that's really what coaching is all about, looking at the whole person, really being proactive about shifting the narrative for our former athlete community now. So, life experience, we use our own life experience, we use our coaching certifications, we use our nursing background, and ultimately, we use the experience of former athletes. Alyssa and I are having hundreds of conversations a day from a little TikTok. That's crazy to say out loud, but in 60 seconds or less, we try and keep our videos to 60 seconds or less. We've gotten so much feedback. Wow, I thought I was the only one going through this, or I felt really alone in this. And we've really seen that this is an untapped space and a gap that we're really passionate about serving. So that's kind of how we blend it all together and package it up in a nice little bow with our services. So just really happy to support any and all former athletes on their journey to make them the most successful and healthiest person they can be.
It's interesting to me because when you make the decision to go to college, there you have to go to orientation, they show you where all the rooms are, they do all the things, right? And even as an athlete, there's more because then you have to meet your teammates, you kinda have to the coach has to make a decision whether or not you're a good fit, whatever those things are, but when you leave, they're like, "Bye." Like, "Peace out," and I don't understand why you're an untapped space and why there are not more people helping athletes make the transition. And whether it's a transition to professional sports or the transition to I'm going to be a rec athlete now or whatever your choice may be, or maybe I'm just done. We discussed yesterday, I've been playing since I was 5. I'm exhausted and I got myself a degree. This is what I want to do. I want to go start living my life. And I just don't understand why colleges can't really do that, why there's not that exit protocol that would probably save I mean, you clearly are going a lot deeper because, like you said, there are some of those I think because we're athletes, there's that almost like a part of our DNA that has been honed into certain behaviors that are around either practice, play, how we internalize coaching, just those types of things. So
We're Life After Sports coaching partners of the NIIA. That's a partnership we started this year. And they're starting to plant the seed. And we're talking to professionals, athletic trainers, athletic directors of how to have these conversations. But the reality is, most of these conversations aren't making them money, right? In a lot of
true,
ways.
right.
So
Silly me.
unfortunately, yeah, this culture of NIL money and that whole world that's taking over. Unfortunately, we see that in the NCAA, and there are pros and that and cons to that, and that becomes such a focus, and all of the things that come along with that, right? Red tape that has to be put in place, and the protection of athletes, and so many things that unfortunately this just becomes a point that gets overlooked. And there are platforms for Olympians, for NFL team members, for NHL, NBA exit programs and transition programs that do exist. And Alyssa and I did a deep dive into some of those programs to see what is the NFL doing for these athletes when they leave. I mean, you think about your linebacker who's significant, 300 pounds, right, of muscle a lot of the time, but all they know is staying at that weight and competing at that level, and they made all this money, and then one day it's all over. Like, what do you do with that athlete? So we looked into these programs, and at the highest level, they care, but collegiate sports, you pour your heart and soul into it. Even if maybe you don't make the Olympic cut, you don't make the NFL, you don't make any higher level, that doesn't mean that you didn't give your all and pour your heart, soul, spirit into something. So I think we're really remiss to not identify services and resources. And Alyssa and I have, I mean, last summer we were cold emailing hundreds of universities to even get on calls to see what resources they have in place. And your big Ivy League schools, your bigger D1 programs that have the funding, they might have a course. Penn State had a professor teaching a life after sports course for 20 years. So there are some outliers, but for the most part, unfortunately, you invest this money into an athlete, a student athlete in their transition. What are they going to end up bringing back to you as far as money? And I think it comes down to that, as sad as it is. We really are coming in here and saying this needs to be looked at because there are trends mental health wise, there are trends emotional health wise, physical health wise that are affecting these former athletes, and start to care about the whole person when they're in your program. So we've tried to measle our way into there. Alyssa, what'd you say?
Yeah, I second everything that you're saying and also want to add that we're just now seeing the shift of treating the student athlete as a person first, like not student first, not athlete first, person first. And I think it's starting to trend into, well, what is happening when these former athletes leave? There isn't a lot out there because there aren't a lot of support systems out there doing studies or staying connected with their alumni. However, most universities think we've done such a good job shaping them through sports and through their schooling, and now they're ready for their career. When looking at the individual as someone that's just ready for their career is kind of the same thing as looking at them as just an athlete and just a student. There is so many other things that are occurring when this transition happens. Hopefully, us talking about it on TikTok, here, cold emailing schools, even if they don't answer us, maybe plants a seed to at least start, okay, well, maybe we're not fully preparing former athletes for life and navigating it on their own. They can excel really well in an environment. We've basically taken that environment completely away, and they don't do any better, arguably a little bit worse, holistically for those first couple of years in post athletic life.
Well, and I know for me, like I said, it took me probably about 5 years to be okay because of the fact that I just, yeah, I graduated, and then there was nothing for me, and it was hard to have conversations with people in my family or other people that were not college athletes because I don't think they understood the amount of structure that an athlete has in their day for a long time. High school, you kind of are messing around a little bit. There's a lot of structure, but when you get to college, like every moment pretty much is structured and including study halls. And because we do want you to be successful academically as well, so that you're eligible to play. But then you graduate, and depending on whether you get a job in the field that you want to, and that's a whole other different thing. But all of a sudden, my day is unstructured. So for you coaching somebody who may have come to you as they just graduated, like, what is one of the first things that you do to help an athlete, like I said, like, not freak out, not fall apart, or maybe it's okay to fall apart? Because that's the other thing is there's an
Yeah.
emotional aspect to this grief and loss of community and belonging.
I think, if you don't mind me just answering at least this first part of it, I kind of what you were just saying, a big piece of it is normalizing the suck and saying it is normal to not know what you want to do. It is normal to have a lapse in motivation. It is normal to not really be sure what you like or how you want to introduce yourself. These are all things that are common when you're leaving sports, and it can make you feel like something's wrong with you, and it's nothing's wrong with you. It's a typical reaction to an atypical time. And if you had absolutely no reaction, that's also fine. Every transition is completely different. And specifically when it comes to the structure, a lot of times what we need to understand is, what do you want to be achieving in the first place, and how do you set those goals? Because if you just create structure and start working hard for the sake of working hard, you're going to burn yourself out for no reason. You're going to become called a client the other day, like a professional, like paint chipper. Like, you can be a really great at chipping paint off the wall with your finger. Who cares if you're the best at that? If it doesn't matter to you, it's just kind of extra effort. So defining what your intentions are, and then really getting clear, asking these former athletes, what did you love about sports? Was it the community? Was it having accountability? Was it the structure that you loved? Was it being part of something bigger? Was it that you were getting better every day? What about it specifically did you enjoy? And how can we go and replicate that in your life now? So I would say those are the starting points typically, is understanding what specifically are you missing? It's okay that you're missing it. And what are you looking to build next? Anything else, Liz, that I'm missing?
I think one thing that I just want to add is when we start these client calls with our former athletes, we always set agreements. And one of the biggest agreement that we set is we're coming in here with positive intent. And a lot of athletes come from all different styles of coaching. You can have athletes who've had a really positive experience with all of their coaches and were talked really, positively to and created this beautiful self-concept and self-identity both as an athlete and outside of an athlete. But most times, 9 out of 10, that wasn't the case. And we've all had a blend of positive influences and positive coaches and a touch of maybe those toxic coaches, you want to name it. But we really want to I say, come as you are, number one. And two, we're coming at you with positive intent. We're not coming at you to judge you. We're not coming at you to belittle you. We're not coming at you to say you're not doing the right thing or you have to fix all of these things, because we're pretty fragile as former athletes for so long. And Dana, we touched on this before we started the call, but we were told you can't show your emotions. How many of us were told to be stoic, to be strong, to hold your head high, to not let it bother you, to thicken your skin? And it can be really hard then taking that former athlete out of every environment that they're used to, putting them in front of us and being like, okay, we're going to go really deep here and how to unpack all of this stuff. Like
Let's
they
get
don't run
into
towards
it.
that. Make it very clear that this is different from that type of space. And we want to serve you, but we also want to show you the things that maybe you're not seeing because for so long you had the blinders on in that sports environment. Just something we really clarify so that we can move forward and then talking about their structure and what they're missing. And so they can feel vulnerable and they can be courageous to talk about the things that maybe they've never talked about before in their whole entire life with somebody.
Well, it takes a lot to kinda keep it together, and especially, like you said, you're dealing with different personalities, and nobody's really being coached by a singular person anymore. You know, you're getting people that are specialized in whatever particular thing. So if you're a swimmer, you have, your backstrokes coaches.
Mhm.
Right? Like that, for me, I was a catcher, so I had a pitching and catching coach that I needed to work with, and his personality was very different than the head coach's personality, and the defensive coach was different from all of that. So
Mhm.
you're just dealing with a lot of that. And one of the things that I found, and it took me a long time to realize this, was that there was a tape playing in my head. And so when I was running or when I was lifting or whatever I was doing, I was hearing their voices and I didn't hear mine. And even when you're like, "Oh, I gotta get rid of so and so's voice," and then you're like, "Oh," you hear your high school coach's voice, and you're like, "Well, screw that guy."
What are you
Like, I don't
doing
wanna
here?
hear his voice, and then you're hearing your mom's voice, and you're like, "Damn it," a lot of voices in
Yeah.
the head, but I think that's because of the repetitive nature of sports, especially when you're trying to get better. There is that practice, and I think it gets drilled in, and, to this day, I still can't run without hearing army cadences in my head because that's I ran and that was a part of the culture, was hearing that all the time, and it's funny because it's really awkward as hell. Because in my head, I'm like, it's like, okay, can't I find it really hard to just go for a run and not have anything else in my head play, and it's so we're almost having to be, like, deprogrammed. Is that what you're doing? You're deprogramming us?
Yeah,
A
I mean,
little.
I started swimming at 5 years old. You mentioned you started playing sports at 5 years old. Alyssa, I think you're not too far behind, around 5 or 6 years old. As a woman and as an athlete, since a very young age, you're still creating who you are in the world. You're still finding out who you are about the world, and you find out who you are based on the environment that you're in. And we grew up as young girls, up to teenagers, up to our mid 20s in these environments who showed us who we are, showed us the way, told us how to be, all of these things. So yes, in a way it is learning the conditioning. And that's where we see so many of us former athletes, no matter what sport you played, there's a lot of all or nothing mentalities. Why? Because at the end of the day, the game, you wanted to win. You wanted to be the best. You wanted to be number one. So fast forward to adulting. And when you're in this new chapter of life, you see a lot of former athletes fall into all or nothing mentalities because they think it's game day again. And that's a conditioning that for so long they didn't even realize what was being kind of, yeah, programmed in a way. And it's not a bad thing. It leads to so much success and
Right.
so much positivity. However, we in our coaching containers do a lot of both learning how you can take those transferable athlete qualities and use them to succeed, but also how to unlearn maybe the all or nothing mentality, the you have to go 110% or it didn't matter at all kind of mindsets. Because, like Alyssa said before, those are fast track to burnout. I can speak from my own experience. I tried to copy and paste everything I learned in school and swimming to be the best, to be an A student, to be number one. And I put that into my nursing career, which what did that look like? showing up early, leaving late, feeling like I had to pick up overtime, feeling like I had to do everything right and couldn't make a mistake. Now I'm a beginner ICU nurse. Of course, there's going to be things that I have to learn and I don't know everything.
Mhm.
But I started to think something was wrong with me because I didn't realize that all of that stuff doesn't necessarily translate over the right way. And that's what we really, it's not about like necessarily deprogramming everything, but learning how to live with the lessons that sports gave us and also how to let go of the things that no longer serve us.
Yeah, that's a big part of it because well, and how many of us do have burnout, like, in
Everyone.
our careers post-athletic? Because clearly as nurses, you both are crazy people because I don't know, I have probably the most insane respect for nurses and sorry doctors, but I feel like nurses kinda can kick your ass like 3 times over. And even, like, listening to you the first time that you were talking and you're like, "Well, we listened to patients," and I was like, "Oh, that's ideal,"
Yeah.
because that was something I didn't get when I was going to the doctor was having somebody actually listen. And
Yeah.
so there's a different level, I think, of dedication that nurses have. And so I don't know if it's all you got burned out because you're nurses or if you got burned out because you're former athletes.
I would say it's both. I mean, it happened to me within 2 years. Like 2 years, I was done. It's like, "Nope, I can't keep doing this at the caliber that I'm going." However, I think what ends up happening for so many people is that the environment that they're trying to work really hard in, it doesn't love them back.
Mhm.
When you're an athlete, there is all of this positive reinforcement to working really hard. There are all of these positive aspects, whether it's winning or just getting better or being surrounded by your teammates, getting feedback. Like you are connected to something more. But when you go into the workforce, you're basically living out someone else's dream in a sense. And it's exhausting to work hard and not get credit when you're used to getting credit. It's exhausting to never say no because you were always taught that saying no was a weakness or just because like if you can you should, and it can sort of grow into this like giant beast. And we I think a lot of former athletes don't realize how burnt out they are because it's kind of the baseline and it's what they expect, but oftentimes when they come and talk to us we're like, well, what do you do in your free time? Well, what free time? Well, what are your top five priorities? They're not even on the list. And then as that we start to unpack all of these things that comes out like, well, when I do slow down, I feel some pressure in my chest, or my heart beats really fast when I have a day off. I feel guilty. It's like, okay, there's some red flags, so to speak. So I would say it healthcare, it definitely accentuates it, but it is across all areas for sure.
Well, and I think as females too, there's a recent commercial, a Geico commercial where Flo is talking to this lady and she's like, you take pictures on vacation. And she's like, what's that? And she's like, oh, you mean when I'm sitting in my car in the car wash and it's quiet? And I think as women, we don't necessarily know when to take our foot off the pedal
Hmm.
because of the fact that I was just talking to one of my colleagues today and she's all, I have 4 kids. I don't know when I find time to work out. If I don't do everything in the morning, then it doesn't get done because then I have practices and I have to cook meals and I have to do this stuff and I'm exhausted at night and I don't know when to work out. And she said, but then I'm also up until 1 o'clock in the morning helping with homework and then I'm up at 5. And so there's almost this culture of burnout. And I think a lot of us are running around with like low key burnout and don't even understand that it's there. And so, I mean, I give you both credit for recognizing the fact and the feelings of that you just didn't have anything left in the tank to give yourselves because I think older people, especially more my generation, those 40s and 50s, are like, they don't see it. They just feel like it's an obligation I have to do and I have to push through, and they're just like, "Well, how do I not be tired to get my kids to their 3 practices and do all the stuff?" So, kudos to you
So
for knowing.
let's call two things out here is former athletes really struggle asking for help. Mothers struggle
100%.
asking for help a lot of time. A lot of us struggle asking for help, number 1. We
Yes.
feel it as like being a burden to others or as a sign of weakness when really it's the biggest strength that there can be. And second of all, I think most of us former athletes we're like, okay, this is just what sports is about. This is what high level athletics is about. When in reality, we are putting ourselves through burnout every single day, where
Mhm.
you're hitting the override button on your physical symptoms, your mental and emotional symptoms. I mean, I remember practices where I'm crying in my goggles because of whatever is going on in my life, the stress of school and practice and meets and my family. And that's not normal necessarily, like maybe once in a while if you have a bad day, but like to
Mhm.
be crying in your goggles is kind of a red flag. And to be swimming through soreness or to be practicing on, a small injury or small sprain, like all of us push past burnout through a certain extent. So how can we recognize those indicators now? Many of us don't even see them as red flags or check engine lights. And that's
Or just putting
education in and of
tape
itself.
over the
Yeah,
indicator.
exactly.
Yeah.
Put a band-aid on it instead of look at the problem, the wound underneath for sure.
Well, and it's also hard navigating that break. So say I sprained my ankle, and if I'm an athlete, I'm thinking, "Holy crap, so and so's what if I'm on the bubble, right? If I'm somebody who's like the 3rd catcher and then all of a sudden I get hurt, and I'm like, "Crap, I'm not gonna be able to play, and so's gonna take my job, so I need to kinda suck it up and play through." There's this very I mean, college athletes have a very unusual I don't know, pot of tension because like you said, it comes from all aspects. You have the familial aspect of, I want you to get good grades because you're gonna get this career, and the decisions you're making right now as a 18 through 25-year-old are going to steer the entire rest of your life, which is total bullshit and not true, but we make you feel like it's
It
that.
feels like it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I mean, again, if your parents are my age, they don't know how to ease up off the throttle, and we want what's best for you, even if that means, like, burying you completely. And then 2, it's the sports and knowing that other people do your sports, so there is always that tension of somebody's going to take my spot. So
Mhm.
then they have that. And then, of course, dealing with relationships in college, what does that look like? Well, do I have friends or am I getting support in my classes and navigating understanding different professors and their personalities and what the expectations are because everybody's different. Some people don't want to put in the extra effort. People want you to put in a ton of effort. And then, of course, then just dealing with the everyday pains and emotional stress that has to be with being a human. And then, of course, throw in hormones and whatever else. And it's just a shit stew, basically. It's supposed to be the best time of your life.
Right.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, and still do better, right? Like people are
There's still room
counting
for
on you.
improvement.
Put the team on your back. People are counting on you, and that serves a purpose to a certain extent, but at what point does that become a detriment to your health, to your life, to your well-being? And that's something we talk about a lot in our former athlete calls. And it's not only we see people doing more and more and more and feeling unfulfilled. Sometimes people go into like the freeze where they've done stuff for so long. I was talking to a former athlete yesterday and he's like, I did it for so long. I can't even get myself to like go for a walk. I can't even get myself to commit to anything because I
Mhm.
don't want commitment. I don't want any commitment. They had it for too long.
Yeah. Well, there that pendulum swing for sure. It's like the intensity has to kinda give in. We're all different athletes. We had different sports that we participated in. How do you create like, what does Beyond the Athlete do for people like me who really do feel like we need that sense of community? And what are you doing to help me navigate and also kind of find my people? Because it's almost like an AA meeting, right? Like it's like, "Hi, my name is Dana. I'm a
I'm a
former
former
co
athlete.
yeah, former college
Mhm.
softball player." What do you guys do to make that a positive space as opposed to, like, a place of shame and, me not living up to my expectations?
Yeah. I can start this?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I can see you. Our first locker room call, what we had everyone do, we had a list of questions and it was raise your hand if you ever cried after a tough practice. And there are people that right, like there's softball players, soccer players, football players, runners, baseball, like name a sport, they were there. Us. Raise your hand if you ever felt like you took a day off and you were lazy. Raise your hand if you still struggle to feel as confident as you were as an athlete. Raise your hand if your goals don't excite you the way they used to. And we kind of showed that this struggle that can feel so lonely, it does transcend sport. And also, like, I think we had some positive ones, like raise your hand if you're looking to better your life, or you want to set goals, or you want to feel good. And a lot of our space is what is focused on creating that growth mindset alongside other people. So instead of competing with the person next to you, you're competing against yourself while you have teammates cheering you on. And so that's really what we do with our locker room. There's a million more stuff I figured. Les, do you want to continue on?
Yeah, so our locker room space is a community membership built online because I know I'm in New York, one of the biggest cities in the world, and I felt alone that I didn't feel like I could find a community of former athletes like this. So that really inspired Alyssa and I to start the locker room community online. And we have 30 something people in there, athletes from all over the country, all different sports, who want to improve their life and their health. And that was the commonality between all of them. It doesn't matter how old you were. Some people are retired just this year. Some people retired 20 years,
With
and we can
kids.
all have similar conversation, which is amazing. So that's our one space to really build that community and show that maybe it doesn't matter what, if you're man, woman, 25-year-old, 40-year-old, whatever sport you played, we at the base of things do have a lot of commonality. Then we also have our one-to-one mentorship, which is they get access to the locker room community to have that space. But these are for the high level athletes who really miss having a coach to help guide them, to help having a sounding board, a resource to keep them accountable, to keep them intentional with the change, because some people do really need eyes on them. I say training wheels on for a little bit until you can really commit to that consistency. You can start the moment yourself, and then we take the training wheels off and you don't need us anymore. But there are two different types of athlete and two different types of support that they're looking for, whether it's a community aspect or some people really need the deep dive themselves. And that would be really the mentorship model that we have. So a little bit for everybody. The locker room's super fun because we do have a strategy session, which is like educational. Let's talk. We did competition on Monday. So how to keep that competitive spirit alive and when it becomes comparison. And then one session a month, we do a yap session. So that typical locker room, make inside jokes, whose football fantasy team is doing poorly, or what's the like hot gossip on, the reality TV shows, whatever. And just to kind of stimulate that fun that we had in locker rooms that it's really hard to find if you're going to the gym by yourself, if you work at a job that's remote, if you have 3 kids and your partner and you don't have a lot of social interaction. So the online locker room community fulfills a lot of those gaps.
That's fantastic. I wish it was around when I was done because I was just alone driving in my car crying.
Don't worry, me
Yeah,
too. And I still
literally. My team, it went very poorly. Did not go well.
Oh, yeah, never like right after you were
Right
done?
after, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that never works. People think it would like, "I'm gonna be different." It's like, no, it is never different.
too
It's like
soon.
they don't wanna listen to you. You
No.
gotta give yourself a couple of years of a gap and, and then so you have 1 or 2 that are like, "Oh, yeah, Alyssa was awesome." You're gonna learn so much, right? And that's always good. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate having you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Dana, thank you for having us. You are
So
awesome.
where can we find you? Obviously TikTok.
Yeah,
Ooh,
TikTok at Beyond the Athlete. Beyond the Athlete is our brand. It's a 2-woman show. We're owned and operated. So go support us on there at Beyond the Athlete. Instagram is similar. It's at Beyond the Athlete underscore at Beyond
underscore
the
beyond
Athlete.
the athlete.
Yeah, if you search Beyond the Athlete, we'll pop up on both platforms. Our website is beyondtheathlete.net. And if you want to email us, info@beyondtheathlete.net is where you can ask questions, ask about our services. A lot of that stuff is on the website, and we talk about it pretty often on our social media
Yeah.
platforms. So a ton of free resources and value we provide. So you don't necessarily have to be in our communities or our mentorship spaces. If you hang around on social media, you'll definitely get a little nugget or two to help you
Yeah.
on your journey.
You definitely will hear a rant at least once a week from one of us for sure.
I love that. Yeah, well, and you 2 are doing such an amazing service, and it's really it's important. And I think it's important, but I'm telling you that it's really important because
Thank
for
you.
me, I don't know what kind of day I was having, and then, Alyssa, I saw you, and you I can't remember what it was you said, and I was like, "Oh my god, I need to have these people on my show because it's like I can't be the only person thinking like this." And so for me, it was finding that community and knowing. And then finding out your mission and what you're doing is so important for people like us because of the fact that sometimes it is hard navigating
Yeah.
real life, I guess, or, or forever life or whatever the hell we got going
Adulting.
on.
Mm.
It's sometimes hard navigating, and having a community is important because time and time again we've seen that having a community really means a lot, and it's what keeps people safe,
Yeah.
especially dealing with emotional and mental health stuff. And so, thank you so much for creating this and being willing to share your stories with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate you.